Welcome back to another episode of 6 and 6, where we cover 6 stories from around the world in 6 minutes or less. With that said, start your timer. First, we go to Australia, where restrictive measures to rein in inflation have not necessarily worked to the country's benefit because of the steady growth within the job market. From Reuters, quote, the Australian dollar pared earlier losses of up to 0.1% to roughly 67 cents USD. Net employment jumped by 47,500 in August from July, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics. This was well above the market forecast for roughly 25,000 rise in the job market, though all these gains were in part-time employment, end quote. Some officials monitoring the situation have been surprised at the repeated growth in the job numbers due to such restrictive monetary policies. In Europe, Ukraine has continued to attack Russia within its own borders, this time using a drone to blow up what they claimed as a army depot. From BBC, a partial evacuation of the region was ordered after the strike in early hours of Wednesday morning. The regional governor later encouraged residents to return, saying that all infrastructure in the town was working normally again. The military site reportedly housed fuel tanks as well as artillery shells, ballistic missiles, and explosives in a series of warehouses. These are all weapons that had been used in Russia's relentless full-scale invasion of Ukraine, end quote. President Zelensky praised those involved in the attack in a speech given after the fact. As we come to South America, another country has now been forced into a state of emergency as the wildfires have grown out of control. From Reuters, quote, the heavily forested northern regions of Amazonia, San Martin, and Uclea will be under a new emergency measure, she said, following several requests from local authorities for more resources to be allocated to fight the fires. Forest fires are frequent in Peru between August and November, largely due to the burning of dry grasslands to expand agricultural frontiers and sometimes by land traffickers, end quote. The president of Peru has called for the evacuation of multiple small towns located within the 3 affected regions. Across the Atlantic and Africa, the people of Burkina Faso are facing continued attacks from a local jihadist group, even as their new leader has assured safety. From BBC, quote, I quoted data showing that more than 6,000 deaths, including 1,000 civilians killed by the Islamist insurgents, have been recorded in the West African state in the first 8 months of the year. Burkina Faso has been battling jihadist groups, including those linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State, since 2016, end quote. As the threat continues to evolve, experts have argued that Burkina Faso may need outside assistance in order to bolster the security infrastructure of the state. Looking to North America, a strike is on the horizon that could cost shippers thousands upon thousands, if not millions of dollars at docks across the eastern seaboard. From Reuters, quote, the International Longshoremen's Association Union represents 45,000 workers at 36 ports, including New York, New Jersey, Houston, Savannah, and Georgia. The union has voted to stop work if it does not have a new labor agreement in place when their current 6-year contract expires on September 30th at midnight. Quote, the moment you close the door, things begin to back up, George Goldman, CMCGM's North America chief, said on a webcast hosted by the Port of Los Angeles, end quote. Though officials are not happy about the situation, those operating ports on the West Coast are confident they could handle the rerouted traffic. As we turn to Asia, a Taiwanese firm is drawing extra attention after an accusation that one of their pagers was used in a bombing in Lebanon. From BBC, quote, at least 12 people were killed and nearly 3,000 injured in Tuesday's explosion targeting members of the armed group Hezbollah, which set off a geopolitical storm in the Middle East. Caught in the crisis, Taiwanese firm Gold Apollo's founder Hu Sheng-chao flatly denied his company had anything to do with the attacks, end quote. Though country officials do not necessarily agree. Though the company does license its technology all around the world, Taiwanese investigators are looking into any formal involvement Gold Apollo may have had in the attack. And with all that said, thank you for joining me for this episode of 6 and 6. If you want to check out the podcast, it comes out on Monday, Wednesday, Friday on this exact RSS feed or the same YouTube channel. Also, if you want to check out the Twitter tirade. It comes out on the exact same day, but over at the Twitter handle at Your Daily Flip. And with all that said, there is only one more. Actually, if you want to read any of today's articles, there will be a link in the description below, that like and subscribe button, so you can go and get an expanded view of everything we talked about here, especially the Brazilian and the Bolivian fire story, and now it's affecting Peru. We've been covering that for a while. This is another article from Reuters. I would highly suggest reading into it a little bit more, because they have more information about how this crisis is going to continue throughout the fall. So, with all that said, thank you for joining me for this episode of 6 and 6, and there's only one more thing to say. Stay safe, don't die.